before help arrives. A week after the typhoon, some people in the Philippines are still left struggling. Could the government have acted faster? It's 6 p.m. in Manila. I'm Atika Schubert. You're watching CNN Newsroom live from London. Also ahead, police say they have cracked an international child pornography ring. After a 3-year investigation, they've made hundreds of arrests and removed scores of children who were being abused. And they watched Sachin Tendulkar spellbound, but have they just witnessed the final innings of his record-breaking career? Well, the Philippine government has sharply raised the number of people it says died in Super Typhoon Haiyan. A week after the monster storm, the number of bodies counted has passed 3,600. Even now, the full scale of the disaster is still emerging as aid workers get through to some areas that had been beyond their reach. The relief effort is now in motion, but there is a real fear that more will die before help arrives. Countless people are hanging on for supplies of food and clean water. Many have been waiting since the typhoon struck last Friday with winds of more than 300 kilometers an hour. With desperation growing, many people are blaming the government for not doing enough fast enough. Well, Ivan Watson is in the city of Tacloban, and he joins me now. Ivan, I remember in the 2004 tsunami, aid never seemed to get there fast enough, but it was so hard because so much had been wiped out. What is the government saying about the response?
Well, one of the arguments that they've made is that here in the city of Tacloban, many of the first responders, the local government, were themselves victims of the storm, and thus that has slowed things down. I do have to say that traveling around this stricken city today, it does appear that the government efforts have ramped up. We have crews from different government agencies clearing the roads, working on the power lines, on the telephone lines, even broadcasters setting up just down the road from us a screen where they're letting people see live broadcasts of news. Of course, there's no electricity in this town, and people don't have access to things like that. So we've also seen ships coming in, as well as the flights that are bolstered by transport planes from the U.S., from Australia, that are bringing in supplies, and ships coming in bringing heavy equipment that are helping also to clear these roads. One agency that's come in from Manila, the Metro Manila Development Agency, I spoke to some of their workers. They say they've retrieved at least 260 bodies from amid the rubble on the sides of the roads in the last 48 hours. One of the big concerns, of course, has been just trying to communicate, and we've been to other parts of the stricken Philippines, Atika, in the last 24 hours, and seen how people are trying to reach out to other communities that have been completely cut off from the rest of the country by the typhoon.
After a grueling 22-hour journey by boat, Adele Siguan has finally reached her hometown, and she only has one thing on her mind.
I bring water for my son.
Adele wants to see her 8-year-old boy, who she hasn't even been able to talk to since the storm cut off ties to this remote fishing town nearly a week ago.
Not knowing about your son, how has it felt for you?
Of course, I can sleep, I can't eat. I can eat. I can't really, I don't know what to do because I'm eager to know what's happening to him.
Adele can't believe how the typhoon devastated her town. The storm crippled the local government.
Any phones?
No communication whatsoever outside.
But local officials are improvising. They've set up a service to fly handwritten messages to the outside world.
Incredible. There's a note here for Cesar Montances, and it's one sentence, like a telegram. Pedro Valdez and Hermenio Badeo are okay and alive. From Johnny Badoco.
The typhoon brought down the roof and facade of this church the Spanish built here more than 400 years ago. But this Catholic priest calls it a blessing in disguise because no one was inside when the roof came tumbling down.
The irony of this is people's faith gets stronger every time calamities like this happen.
Last day.
Certainly, Filipinos here have not lost their sense of humor. They joke with a stranger, even though their homes are damaged and their stomachs are empty.
But you guys are still laughing. You can still laugh.
Laughter is the best medicine.
It's the best medicine, yeah?
Across town, Adele Siguan has almost completed her exhausting journey. After a week of frightening uncertainty, the mother and her 8-year-old son are finally reunited.
How do you
I'm
feel
so
right
happy
now?
that my son was okay. Yeah.
They are both alive and okay.
A happy ending for that mother and son, Atika. That community of Giwan didn't suffer nearly as big a death toll, about 50,000 inhabitants there, the first place that the storm hit. And local authorities there told me on Thursday that they'd had about 86 casualties and 22 people still missing. Much higher death toll here in Tacloban. But again, another service that's been slowly restored in the last 24 hours, cell phone service. So this community has been able to reach out in the past 24 to 36 hours and reconnect with the outside world. Atika?
Communication is so critical, and I'm always impressed at the way local communities can pull together in the face of disaster. Thank you so much, Ivan Watson, for us in Tacloban. Now, if you'd like to help people in the Philippines whose lives have been turned upside down by the typhoon, log on to our Impact Your World website. It has links to charities and aid groups that we vetted to ensure your donation is used to get help where it's needed most. That's at cnn.com/impact. Now, although the typhoon season typically quiets down from November through March, the rainy season is an entirely different story for parts of the Philippines. Meteorologist Pedram Javaheri is at the International Weather Center with that. Pedram, I've been to the Philippines a few times. Beautiful islands, but when the rainy season comes, it can really have an impact there. What do they have coming up for them in terms of weather?
Yeah, like you said, an impact could be very severe, too, when you're talking about 900,000+ people that are displaced there at Tika. And the satellite imagery at this hour shows you one of the quieter conditions we've seen across the Philippines in weeks now, where very little to no cloud cover with the exception of the southern tier of Mindanao, a few thunderstorms popping up in the western corner of Luzon. But generally speaking, parts of the Philippines at this point of the year do begin to see quieter conditions. And again, Tacloban entering a quieter period at least in the next couple of days. But look at this, the rainy season, the most populated, the largest island in the Philippines being Luzon. The rainy season across western Luzon is from June through September. The dry season from November through April. Go right next door to central and eastern portions of Luzon. There is no dry season. Very wet, actually, from December through February. And then you work your way towards areas even to the east. You're talking about more wet weather. So very, very stark contrast here as far as 7,100 islands scattered about the region. And everyone's seen a different period when it comes to dry and wet season. And the main area of concern, of course, eastern Visayas, Tacloban area, looking at those carefully because we know very wet weather expected typically in the months of December through February. And the graph charts here really put it in perspective as far as what we're talking about, because look at Manila. Go from March into, say, May and April and June. Eventually, you really peak out in the peak of the summer months there as far as rainfall on the order of 400 millimeters a month. And then you come back down November and December in the beginning portion of the year where it's quieter in this portion of the country. But around, say, Tacloban, this is the layout for the rainfall. Very uniform throughout the entire year. And then you get through the latter portion of the year where we're entering right now, and rainfall actually goes up to the peak there of about 300 millimeters a month. So it really shows you how important it is for the rescue operations and recovery efforts to take place as soon as possible, because we know wet weather going to be climatologically expected in the coming weeks across that portion of the world. But we'll give you a quick glance here, Atika, what's happening around Western Europe, because we do have a big dip in the jet stream, and that means very cold weather, some of the coldest weather in the southwest of Europe in about 7 months. Could be 1 below zero across Madrid in the next couple of days. So bundle up if you're headed out to the warmest corners of Europe as well.
Oh, no, I guess this means winter is actually here. Well, thank you very much, Pedram Javaheri, for us at the International Weather Center. You're watching CNN Newsroom live from London. Is a new partnership between Egypt and Russia on the horizon? We'll have the details on historic talks in Cairo just ahead.